Hey guys, how's it going? Today I'm going to show you how to make a really delicious mac and cheese from scratch with ingredients you can find in your kitchen. So, when you're ready, let's get to it. Okay guys, so we're going to start with 450 grams of your pasta, 230 grams of butter and flour each, 2 liters of milk, 250 grams of mozzarella, 125 grams of Parmesan. Now this recipe originally called for cheddar and Asiago, but I couldn't find that, so any type of cheese will work. Next, we're on to the onion piqué, and then 100 milliliters of melted butter. And then we're going to add 100 milliliters of parsley and breadcrumbs. So, first we're going to start with our pasta. The reason that we're doing this is because it's going to be the fastest cooked, and we also want to let it cool. Now, we're going to cook this just shy of where we want it to be because it'll actually absorb the moisture from the sauce and the residual heat will cook it. So we're going to add some oil to this pasta, and then we're going to make sure it's all mixed and good. And then we're going to line it out on a baking sheet like you see right here. And we're just going to let that cool for a little bit. The oil is just to help that not stick. And then next, in a second here, we'll be moving on to our roux. So, roux actually help to thicken the sauces. So add the butter to the pan and wait for it to melt. Then once it's all good and melted, you're going to add the flour, which you'll see coming up in a second here. There are different colors for the roux depending on what you want to achieve. Today we're going with a blonde roux. You can go anywhere from white to brown, but the blonde is just a milder flavor. You'll be able to tell when this is done because there will be a slight nutty scent. You won't be able to smell the raw flour anymore. Next, we're going to move on to our milk here. So make sure to incorporate it slowly, 250 milliliters to 500 milliliters at a time. Just make sure to actually incorporate all of it before you add more. Make sure it's all a homogeneous mixture. And more often than not, this is where it's going to go wrong for you. Just keep an eye out for this because it's so easy to scorch this. You just have to make sure that it's all really well mixed together right off the bat, first of all. So you have to make sure that you're constantly stirring because the roux is probably going to stick to the bottom. I learned that the hard way the first time I ever attempted this. So you have to make sure that you are stirring it and make sure that you also have your trusty little spatula nearby so that you can scrape the bottom to kind of scoop up that excess roux that was stuck there. This is why it's going to burn. If you don't get all that roux off the bottom, it's just, you're not going to be having a good time. You're going to be drinking burnt milk. And then we're going to add our piqué here. So for an onion piqué, it's an onion and a bay leaf and 2 cloves, but I couldn't find cloves, and that's okay, you don't need them, they just impart a little bit more flavor. And that's all it's really just going to do. It's just going to add a little bit more flavor, it's going to make it a more delicate kind of tasting sauce. So, when you're doing this, you have to make sure that you're always stirring. Some people will only occasionally come over and stir, but it's way too easy to scorch, so I personally advise just watching it the whole time. You can walk away for a couple minutes and you don't have to worry about it, but you really have to make sure that your eyes are on that. You really, really need to make sure. I can't stress that enough, because again, this is where it will go wrong if it does at any point in this recipe. So next, we're going to incorporate our cheese. So we're going to add these 2 lovely cheeses in here, and we're going to stir until it's all nice and homogeneous and a good kind of gloopy looking texture, but it's going to be delicious either way. You want it to be nice, thick, and cheesy. And then we're going to add our noodles. So when they decide to get out, oh, okay, we spilled some right there. All right, whatever. And so you're going to take your spatula, you're going to make sure that all of the noodles are incorporated, all of them are covered. And then once you have this done, you're pretty much set. You just have to come over to your trusty old casserole dish and pour this in. It looks a little gloopy right now, but trust me, it'll sort itself out. It's going to be delicious either way. Now, if you are like me and you have a cholesterol death wish, you can choose to add more cheese to the top of this. I personally did. I like my mac and cheese cheesy. So, and also when it's baking too, it's going to help kind of give you a good gauge because the cheese on top will brown. So you'll actually be able to tell when it's done better like that. And then here are our breadcrumbs. Now, these may seem a little green at first here. Kind of looks like I'm putting some of the good old Mary Jane on there. But yeah, no, that's just because I added a little bit too much parsley. I was only making a half batch, but the recipe that I was following, I forgot to cut the parsley in half, kind of half that. So yeah, I added a little bit too much parsley, but that's okay. That just means it's going to impart more of that herby goodness. Yeah, just sprinkle these on here and make sure they're all spread out nicely here. Just make sure everything's good. And if you're eating this right away, you're going to bake it at 350 degrees Fahrenheit or until the breadcrumbs are golden brown, or you can cover it like I am and just have it the next day. Thanks, guys. Enjoy.